103.2 Dublin City FM, Mental Wealth with Brian Greene. On today's programme, a special. Last Thursday was World Mental Health Day, October 10th, and we took our microphones to Smock Alley in Dublin, Hotpress, with Lions Tea for Pieta House. There was an amazing panel discussion and musical performances. We'll take a musical performance first and get into the panel discussion next. Now We're Talking is the Hotpress campaign, and it's all across their current issue for October, and they ran a competition, a song competition, the winner of which was Emma Quinn, and here is Emma performing that winning song.
Every day feels like the one before. There's nothing to fill this emptiness inside your core. You're screaming, it doesn't come out anymore. Just go numb. It's easier than this pain, this torment. I don't know what to say to make this better. Don't have the words to use, the rhymes, the right letters. If I could dilute the pain and make it wetter, if I could change her mind and help you to get her. I'm no Eminem, I can't rap, I just write. But if he can't get it through to you, then maybe I just might. You're letting darkness in when you know you should fight. If you won't look for it, let me find the light. You find the light. Don't worry if it's too late. Let inevitability wait. While you're out there watching waves, you're counting nights and counting days. Don't let in dark, 'cause you know we all have scars. To live this life of ours instead of demons, search for stars. I know when I try convince you, it just falls to deaf ears. That's why I'm writing this at 2 a.m. I'm hoping that you'll hear. I know you're angry, you're hurting and feel a void, but someday something's gonna fill that and that gap will be destroyed. I don't know if this is gonna help you, but I know when I was bad, I wish that someone else was there for rescue, to talk to cry to, or just to listen. Someone to see all of the dark that I kept hidden. 'Cause it's too much of a burden on your own. Your mind takes over tunnel vision and you feel alone. I still have plenty of demons left to fight, but it's easier to climb back out when someone shines a light. You shine a light. Don't worry if it's too late. Let inevitability wait. While you're out there watching waves, you're counting nights and counting days. Don't let in dark, 'cause you know we all have scars. To live this life of ours instead of demons, search for stars. You know when I try convince you, that just falls to deaf ears. That's why I'm writing this at 2 a.m. I'm hoping that you'll hear. I know you're angry, it hurts, you're filling voids. Someday something's gonna fill that and that gap will be destroyed. I don't know if this is gonna help you. I know when I was bad, I wish that someone else was there for rescue, to talk to cry to, just to listen. Someone to see all of the dark that I kept hidden. It's too much of a burden on your own. Your mind takes over tunnel vision and you feel alone. I still have plenty of demons left to fight. It's easier to climb back out when someone shines that light. Just shine that light. So don't worry if it's too late. Let inevitability wait. While you're out there watching waves, you're counting nights and counting days. Don't let in dark, 'cause you know we all have scars. To live this life of ours instead of demons, search for stars. Search for stars. Search for stars. Thank you.
Emma Quinn of BIM in Dublin and winner of the Now We're Talking Hotpress Song Competition 2019. We go to Smock Alley and the panel discussion. In the panel, Hannah Tyrrell, Fergal Darcy, Jordan Jones, Colin O'Gara, psychiatrist with St John of God's Hospital, and Elaine Austin, the CEO of Pieta House. The MC is Stuart Clark, and he began by asking Elaine Austin of Pieta House about the Resilience Academy.
The Resilience Academy, it's a 6-week programme that we deliver into schools, into second year 14-year-olds. And really what it's about is helping our young adults build their levels of inner resilience. There's 8 modules. They get to choose which modules they want to discuss. It's done in a very youth-based way, and really for them, you know, for us from a Pieta perspective, we're really passionate about caring for people in crisis. So it's so important for us that we're building out on the prevention aspect, and that, you know, we provide the coping sort of framework and skills to children so that, you know, as they get older and whatever life will throw at them, that they'll be able to perhaps use some of those skills that they've gained through this 6-week programme.
And just to clarify, how young would your youngest service users be?
Well, you know, we've seen the service, the under-18s, really there's a growth in the under-18s in the last couple of years. We're up to, if you take our 2018 or even the first 6 months of 2019, you're talking about 30%, which is huge for us. We have started also to see under 12, but obviously it's a different, you know, if you consider our therapeutic model, the Pieta way, it's looking at that from a play therapist perspective. So, you know, there has been a growth actually coming to the service from under 18 and under 12, which you have to be able to respond to. And that's one of the primary reasons why the Resilience Academy, we started the Resilience Academy, because we've seen that trend and we said, you know what, we need to find a way where we're getting into schools and we're starting to provide some of the services around resilience.
I get the impression young people are getting more and more mental health literate.
Yes, definitely, but they're still young people.
Yeah.
They're still trying to work their way in the world and trying to find out, you know, really, you know, get into their own identity, find out who they are, and face the challenges that, you know, familiar challenges that we probably all faced, but more. So they are more literate because there's more information there. And I also think that, you know, for us, the campaigns like this are just so important, because if we can start to turn the tide a little bit on the stigma with people feeling, and, you know, our young adults growing up thinking, you know, if I'm not feeling okay, that's okay, and that's okay for me to ask for help. That's the result.
That's the key message, isn't it? It's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Hannah, you picked up the phone and called Pieta House. How important was that to you?
Well, it wasn't me, it was my parents.
Right.
Not long after Pieta House had opened, I was a bulimic at the time, and I was self-harming and had a lot of ideas about suicide. And when my parents found out between themselves and the school guidance counsellor, they decided to bring me to Pieta House, and thankfully there I received some wonderful counselling, and it took a couple of years, but, you know, they were kind of the start of my path to recovery, and it's why I'm still here today.
And can you just talk us through when you sat down for the first time with your therapist? What questions did you have for them? What was going through your mind?
I was scared, to be honest. For the first couple of months, to be honest, I didn't say much. The biggest fear for me was that I didn't think that anybody would understand what I was going through. You know, I didn't know anybody else who suffered from an eating disorder or who self-harmed, and I didn't think anyone would understand. But the biggest thing for me was I didn't think anybody would be able to fix me. I felt very broken, and I was afraid that if I reached out and asked for help and they couldn't help me, what would I do then? But slowly, you know, I gained I kind of, I suppose, started to break down a little bit and allowed my counsellor in, and I began to realise that I wasn't the only person who was struggling with this, and you know, that was kind of a step in the right direction for me.
So you felt less alone?
Yeah, completely. Like she almost normalised them a little bit for me and told me that what I was dealing with were negative coping strategies, and that she was just trying to show me a different path, and that there was other ways of dealing with all the stress I had in my life. Brilliant.
Fergal, you're broadcasting every day to hundreds of thousands of people. Well done on the figures, by the way, the other day. Show's doing well. It's live. There are no second takes. That must be very stressful.
Yeah, it can be. I've had serious bouts with anxiety and depression over the years, and it's like, you know, I'm sure you've all seen that article where the picture of all these people all happy and they're smiling, best day ever. And underneath it, there's that line saying, "This was my worst day of my life because this happened." And you have actually touched on something that I think it's something we're behind the game on here in Ireland. And that is like, if you're in America, and I've often said this in the show, you go to a therapist, it's 2 o'clock, you go, 2 o'clock, I have to go to see my therapist. They're like, oh, God, see you later, right? You're in Ireland. 2 o'clock, I got to go to see my therapist. All right, see you later. As Virgo's gone. You know, like we have, there is that kind of stigma there a little bit still. Thankfully, we're getting over it. And there's something that's very interesting about this is that we're 30 years on. Barry Desmond brought out a thing called Planning for the Future in the 80s, which was all about moving people in the services, to the communities, which we've gone a long way with. But one of the things that they touched on was a thing called institutional neurosis, which is quite relevant to my job, because that means that you become institutionalized in your job. My mother was a psych nurse. When she retired, she didn't know what to do with herself. It took her a long time to get around that, and I find that in my job, I do it. So you can take it at any given day. I could lift the mic and go, you're listening to Today FM. If you want to get in contact, 0874 100 102. This is a brand new song from Bruno Mars, one of the best songs you're going to hear this year. Oh, God, I can't believe she broke up on me. Dealing with music is like your best friend. And as you know with your best friend, when they're on form, they're great crack, but they can also show form when they're at their worst. Relationships, I had a very, very horrible breakup for a long-term relationship a couple of years ago, and I had to go in to do a show, and I'll never forget it. It's like your house is on stilts, and there's a crack in every stilt, but one goes under it, and the whole lot breaks. You're not happy with your life, you're not happy with your job, you're not happy with this, but then one thing just triggers it. There's a lot of triggers with music, I find. For instance, if you're in a relationship, you start off, I'm so in love with you. 5 years later, if you leave me now, you take away the biggest. Then we go to Khalees about 3 months after that. I hate you so much right now. And then you take that right up to about a year later. Single ladies. Music can do it. I remember sitting in the car, Razor Light, before I Fall to Pieces came on the radio, and I remember just sitting in the car going, FML. But it's that transgression. And you have to remember, there's thousands of people out there. The one thing about this job, though, it is rewarding. You become immediately an impressionable person, and this is where I think that our work has kind of come in good, because it starts at home. And I think, the way, you used to have dads going, "Come on, be an ad about it. Shut up about it. Come on, let's go for pints." That doesn't really happen anymore. And it's wonderful to see that now that we've opened up. And I think we have a long way to go. We're only normalizing with the way they are in the States with it. But not saying that everything they do is right, but I'm just saying that we have a good bit to go. Being impressionable, this job that I do can be very rewarding. I remember when I left the last station I worked with, iRadio, one of the last messages I got my final day was from a lady who told me that she had been driving up and down to the hospital to her dad, who was extremely sick at the time with terminal cancer. And she said her only bit of sanity in the whole day was that she would go out to the car, turn on the radio, and laugh at us acting the mick. And she sent a lovely thank you after that. And it brought a tear to my eye, because you don't realise that small gesture, that one thing, that one smile you put on someone's face has changed everything. And if you can do that for one person every day, that makes you an impressionable person, and you're going in the right direction and you're helping others. And I think that that's the message and that's the gift that radio gives, and should always do that.
Some really great points there. Jordan, you've spoken about your very particular experiences in the area of mental health. Can you tell us a bit about Asperger's and how it impacts on you?
Oh, it's a hard one, because Asperger's is so broad, and I always say that Asperger's means something to, individually to people that have it, it means something different. But I guess for me, I have Asperger's and PPD, and BPD is a borderline personality disorder, and they cross over a lot with symptoms. But Asperger's can kind of be, I guess, I have a lot of quirks, I guess, that come with Asperger's. I can be obsessive, and I guess that's why, when I went into acting, it wasn't I might do a bit of acting. It's I'm going to be an actor, and I'm going to be the best actor in the world, and I'm and I'm not going to stop until I get there. And it can be hard, because with Asperger's, I'm really overly sensitive to the world. So sensory issues, and it just really depends on the day, but too much lights and cars, even personalities, people chatting can just be completely overwhelming. So there's times when I come home exhausted. And I actually wrote a small piece for the Hotpress mental health magazine, and I just talked about finally realising that I can actually look after myself, and it was just this weird realisation I had never thought about before. I kind of was putting myself into situations and throwing myself out to the world because it was expected, I guess, and then I realised if I can put myself out in the world, I can also go back into my own little world, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Some people say, oh, isolation, don't isolate yourself. But for me, sometimes I need to go into hibernation, and I need to find peace in my mind, and I need to be on my own. I need to comfort myself, and then I'm ready to go back out into the world again and face it. So when I got the diagnosis of my Asperger's, I was 16. And it was really funny because when my doctor had told me, I was like, what? I was like, oh dear God, we all knew it, and so
it was a relief to find out.
Yeah, so I was a bit in shock, but things started to make sense then. I was like, okay, and there was a lot of acceptance that came with it, and I enjoy reading about other people that have Asperger's, and like you said, I didn't feel so alone in it then. I thought I was a crazy person. I thought nobody could understand me and my little obsessions and quirks, and now all I do is read up about it, and I'm always meeting up with people that have Asperger's to chat, and it's really nice.
And did your friends treat you any differently at first when you said, I'm living with Asperger's?
No, the funny thing is, when I got diagnosed, my friend Neve was like, you know what, I think I might have that. And she went and she got diagnosed. And then my friend Amy had got diagnosed, and my friend Paul. And they're my group of friends, and we all have Asperger's. And we're like, no wonder we're together. We're the we're literally the biggest group of weirdos in the world. No wonder nobody else is friends with us. We're all together.
Oh, so everything really did make sense.
Yeah.
Colin, services like Pieta House are hugely beneficial, but there are times when a psychiatrist is required. Can you explain the relationship between the two fields?
Yeah, a wonderful service like Pieta House, is set up to deal with people in crisis. But mental health problems present in so many different ways. So you'd have, what we call subclinical problems. So you may have anxiety, depression, and you have a group of friends and you talk those problems out, and it doesn't come to the attention of medical services or traditional services like Pieta House. So the next phase up is contact with a GP maybe. So you go to your general practitioner and you talk about the problem, and you get either talking therapies or medication or whatever advice. So, I think the points, certainly the points that resonate with me already is just that we desperately need more services like Pieta House. We desperately need to get this paper called Vision for Change, which was put in 2006. Not 2016, 2006. And if you look at child services, you look at general adult psychiatry services and services for later life, all of them are underfunded. My own service, I didn't even talk about my own service, which is addiction services, which are not properly funded either. But if you look at the burden of mental health in this country and the UK and internationally, in the UK, for instance, is 23% of the overall health burden is mental health. But the funding is way under that. It's probably in around 12%. So we need equity. We need the funding of mental health services to be on par with physical services, because if you break a leg or whatever, you end up in Vincent's or James's. What's the difference between that and going to either Pieta House or our hospitals? So that for me is a huge, we're stigmatized as clinicians working in the area by other health professionals. If you're a patient, to use the word, or service user or client, you're stigmatized as well, and that really annoys me. It irks me, and I think it's getting collaborations like this is knocking and punching against that, and I think that's wonderful.
The S word is the problem, stigma.
Yeah.
Is it lessening? John of God's has an image it conjures up. Great work. People go, John of God's. Do you find that?
It's huge. Every single day of the week that I work, I say, look, if there's like a driveway up to it, and nearly everybody, you can see it in their face, and you say to them just as an icebreaker, look, I know what it's like. People tell me what it's like to come in here. So absolutely. But, why should it be any different? Why going into, I think, you talked already about the it is changing, but, we're not there yet, obviously. It's not like driving into Vincent's or James's. It's not the same, or Beaumont or whatever. It's not the same as going into John of God's. I hope by the time my children grow up and whatever, if they need services, that it won't be like that,
They won't give a second thought. It's just a natural thing. We go and look after our mental health like we do a bad foot or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it should be the same. Yeah.
We'll resume the conversation in a moment. Do we have Stephen around, Mr. Smith? Brilliant. So, time for our second special guest of the night. Please welcome Stephen James Smith.
How's it going, you all right? Do you know what stressed me out today? I had found out about preliminary tax. Has anybody ever heard of that before? I had to pay preliminary tax today. Freaked me out. Anyway, thanks for the invitation to have me along here. My name's Stephen, and I'm trying to write poems. Some people wouldn't agree with that, they're poems, that's what I'm going to call them. And poetry has saved my life, okay, very much so, and through creating and connecting with other people. I'm standing here because of it, so I might be jovial, but there's no escaping that, so that's why when I was asked to be part of this, I had to submit and come on board. I've been volunteering with the Mental Health Arts Festival called First Fortnight for approximately 10 years now, and they do amazing work, so go along and check that out in January. One of the things they have me doing at the moment is I'm actually working in St. Patrick's Psychiatric Hospital. I'm working with the people in there, writing a libretto, writing an opera, which is freaking me out, but it's good crack as well. And I guess for me, through art, it's given me a voice, gave me a sense of meaning in the world, and hopefully you can all get out and create yourselves. So the poem I'm going to do is a short, light enough one, but sort of touches on that theme. As famous Seamus Heaney said, if you find the words, there's always a chance you'll find the way. So that's why it's nice to have poetry here this evening. And yeah, I'll just shut up and say the poem now. Yeah, I had another thing I was going to say, but I don't want to take the piss either. So this is called We Must Create. If you have an interest, it's mostly written in a pentameter. Do you remember in school the iambic pentameter? Apart from one line, which isn't. And then I just forgave myself and said, I'm going to put it in like that anyway. So just forgive yourselves, all right? So it goes like this. We must create to know who we can be. I say this for you. I say this for me. We must create to know who we can be. Early beginnings, heartbeat, warmth and you, first breath, eyes open, a new point of view, hands touch, ears hear, clocks ticking, I am who. We must create to know who we can be. From scrawling with crayons, Lego bricks, from knitting needles, soft textile fabrics, to air guitar and now Jimi Hendrix, we must create to know who we can be. There are creative accountants' CVs, Tinder profiles where you look the bee's knees, but best not to force it, it comes with ease. We must create to know who we can be. We heard a song sung, it helped ease the pain. We didn't feel so lonesome as we sang the refrain. We forgot that feeling until we heard it again. We must create to know who we can be. Do you remember the time you heard an opening allegro, or when that beat dropped and how it made your head go? Some things make no sense unless you're in flow. We must create to know who we can be. You may rise then fall, or fall then rise. An arc of a story contains no surprise, but how you tell it, therein the art lies. We must create to know who we can be. If you do it for the money, I normally sell them for a tenner. I've got two back there. If you want to flog one, buy one off me. Help me with my preliminary tax. If you do it for the money, you'll be called a fraud. If you think you're great company and you might be God, delusions of grandeur aren't that odd. We must create to know who we can be. There's all sorts of forms, disciplines, levels, to challenge yourself in the intervals, where you'll find rivals and reasons for approvals. We must create to know who we can be. If it saved you from yourself, and now there's no other way, it doesn't matter how it moved you. Welcome to the ballet. You've just found the peak of Parnassus. Fair play. We must create to know who we can be. I say this for you. I say this for me. We must create to know who we can be. Thanks.
The amazing Stephen James Smith. That was so good. Elaine, just how important is this tie-in with Lion's team?
Oh, it's so important. It's so important for a number of reasons. You know, the Hotpress and Lion's team and I were talking campaign. When you look, that it gives people the opportunity to tell their story, and really then for others to see that it's okay, that they possibly have fragments and aspects of that story too. So I think it's so important because it's getting the word out there that it's okay, that how you're feeling, someone else might be feeling that as well. And that was very evident from the conversation earlier. And that's really so fantastic. The other thing is the funding for Pieta House. You know, Pieta House, we offer free services. So our intervention, crisis intervention services, our bereavement services, the Resilience Academy, they're funded by, you know, people in this room. They're funded by, you know, the campaign Lion's Team, Hotpress. So it's so important for us because we're so passionate about delivering the services.
And you have how many houses nationwide now?
We have 15 centres and 3 outreach centres.
Wow, it's a big old network.
Yeah, it's a big network, and we have 220 clinical staff. So it's and we, you know, we take last year we had 8,000 clients. So it's so important for us to be there, be in the communities. That's why there's 15 centres, you know, over Ireland, because it's a community-based business as well, because that's where the people are. And you know, the more that you're there and you're accessible and you're easy to engage with, the easier it is for someone to come to the service, which is so important.
Now, a question a lot of individuals and indeed families ask is, at what point do I contact Pieta House? Is the problem serious enough? What would your answer be to that?
My answer is lift the phone, come in. When you come into Pieta House, you'll sit down with someone, they'll go through a risk assessment and they'll have a conversation with you. I think sometimes you just don't know yourself where you are, whether it's serious enough or not. If you're thinking, if you're experiencing suicide ideation or you're engaging in self-harm or you feel that sense of hopelessness, come have a conversation.
Yeah.
Don't sit at home.
I can see Hannah nodding there. Obviously, that was your experience going and being a bit frightened, and then it was demystified for you, and eventually you obviously got the benefit from the engagement. You're playing an elite sport, the very highest level. How do you deal with the pressure?
I think actually having gone through what I've been through with eating disorder and self-harm and coming out with those kind of positive coping methods, they've actually been a huge help for me. Facing into an elite sport, and I suppose I kind of know what I need to do to keep my own mental health in check right now, and being in a performance-based environment, where if you're not doing well, you won't be picked and stuff can be quite stressful. But I know that, if I don't keep talking about how I'm feeling and I let it all build up, then things can get quite bad for me. So I tend to try and just sit down and have a cup of tea. I'm a self-confessed tea addict, and just kind of open up about how I'm doing or whether I had a stressful day at work or at training. And another thing would be just take my dogs for a walk and clear my head and just kind of let go of all that negativity and stress and just enjoy the look of happiness on my dogs' faces when they see me.
Dogs are great for mental health.
They're brilliant.
As an Ireland player, are there supports available to you now?
Yeah, we're aligned up with Rugby Players Ireland, and there's counselling available to us, and we have a great network there in terms of coaches, nutritionists, dietitians, and there's a range of services available to us for both on and off the pitch stressors, so we're well looked after in the RFU, yeah.
As we've got you there, who's going to win the World Cup?
New Zealand are getting an awful lot of rest, so I'm going to say them, unfortunately.
Fair enough. Worth putting a tenner on them.
Wise words throughout the evening, even on the rugby tips. It's 103.2 Dublin City FM. You've been listening to a special recorded at Smock Alley in Dublin. Our thanks to Hotpress and the panel. They were Hannah Tyrrell, Fergal Darcy, Jordan Jones, Colin O'Gara, psychiatrist with St John of God's Hospital, and Elaine Austin, CEO, Pieta House. The MC was Stuart Clark. Poetry was from Stephen James Smith, and the music at the start of the programme was from Emma Quinn. This has been Mental Wealth on Dublin City FM. I'm Brian Green, back next Tuesday at the same time. Until then, have a great week, stay safe, take care, and goodbye.